It was 1983. A few friends decided to spend the evening together. They were two girls named Sandra and Tina and a boy named Gary. When Sandra's parents left, the teenagers made themselves sandwiches and started watching a movie together. They chatted merrily until 10 p.m., and suddenly they heard a knock on the door. Sandra was puzzled because she wasn't expecting anyone else that evening. When she opened the door, she was surprised. Standing on the porch was a guy, a pizza delivery guy. "There must be some mistake," Sandra said. "We didn't order pizza." The men smiled and replied, "This pizza is free." Shrugging, the girl took the pizza and closed the door. She brought the pizza into the living room and opened the box. Inside she found half a pizza. There were only a few slices, and after a few minutes they finished the pizza. Gary got up and apologized and then went to the bathroom. After a while, Sandra and Tina heard a terrible scream. They ran out into the hallway and saw Gary rolling down the stairs. He landed on the floor and fell silent. A sharp kitchen knife was sticking out of his back. Sandra rushed to the phone and tried to call an ambulance, while Tina tried to help Gary. It was all useless, he was already dead. When Sandra picked up the phone, she was horrified because there was no dial tone. Cell phones hadn't been invented yet, so the girls decided to wait for their parents to return. When the clock struck 11 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Sandra opened it, thinking it was her parents returning. But there was the pizza deliveryman standing there again with a new free pizza. Sandra started to suspect something, but still took the pizza and closed the door. When they opened the pizza box, there was only a quarter of a pizza inside. The girls were hungry, so they ate the pizza. As Tina swallowed the last slice, a gunshot rang out and she crouched down and fell face down. Sandra screamed and bent over to help her friend. She saw that the bullet had hit Tina in the back of the head and blood was oozing from there. At midnight there was another knock on the door. Sandra flinched and went to open it. The pizza deliveryman handed her another free pizza. Inside she found only one slice of pizza. With trembling fingers, she put the slice in her mouth and started chewing on it. Suddenly, she felt a rope descend around her neck. The rope clenched tightly around her neck and Sandra hung from the ceiling like a coat on a hanger. When Sandra's parents returned home, they saw the gruesome scene. Gary's corpse lay at the foot of the stairs with a knife in his back. Tina's body lay face down on the carpet in a pool of blood. Sandra's corpse was hanging from a thick rope, her face purple, her tongue swollen and blackened. Sandra's father immediately called the police, who arrived and began examining the crime scene. They discovered that each of the bodies had a business card on them, which had been carefully placed in their clothing. One of the investigators bent down and picked up the business card. It read, "Tom's Pizza." Further investigation revealed that years ago, there had been a fast food place by that name in town. The strange thing was that the Tom's Pizza fast food place burned down in 1966, and all of its employees died in the fire. Pizza delivery is a scary story about a man who decided to share his food with a family who lived above his apartment, and was injured in a car accident and needed to spend several weeks at home until he was fully recovered. His wife worked and was unable to spend time with him. He needed to spend most of his time in the apartment as it was painful for him to go outside. For the first few weeks it was pretty easy. He had a lot of things to do. But then he got bored. One day he was watching TV when he heard footsteps and voices of children in the apartment above him. He wondered why the kids were home at this hour, since they should be at school. The next day he heard the same footsteps and voices of children. It sounded like two children were playing upstairs. The next day, the man was even more bored and didn't feel like making lunch. Instead, he ordered a pizza delivery. He ordered several pizzas, and when he couldn't eat anymore, he still had one pizza on the table. He remembered about the kids in the apartment above him, so he decided to do a good deed and give them a pizza. The man had never encountered the family living above him, but he decided to offer them pizza anyway. He went up to the floor above and rang the doorbell. At first there was no answer, though he could clearly hear someone walking around outside the door. He rang again and saw someone looking through the peephole. "Who is it?" said a cold female voice behind the door. The man explained that he lived in the apartment below and had one pizza left and asked if they wanted to eat it. The door was ajar and the man saw half of the woman's face through the crack. He noticed that the apartment was unusually dark. "Thank you, but we don't want to," the woman said just as coldly. "Maybe your children do," the man asked. As soon as he said this, two children's faces appeared below the woman's face. The children looked at him. The three faces formed a straight line. "All right, let's go," said the woman. A hand reached through the gap and grabbed a pizza box. The men just stood still. The three faces were still staring at him. Then the door slammed shut and he walked backward. Something was bothering him. He felt goosebumps run down his back. The image of the faces he saw through the gap flashed through his brain. He walked faster and reached the elevator. The faces formed a line, he thought. He pressed the button and waited for the elevator to arrive. They formed a straight vertical line. One face sat on top of the other. He pressed the button again and again, but the elevator wasn't coming. Something was seriously wrong. The faces. He began to descend the stairs quickly. The faces lined up on top of each other. It was impossible. He ran desperately down the stairs. There were no bodies. Finally, he reached the door of his apartment. The heads seemed to be hanging in the air, as if someone was holding them up. After calming down in his apartment, the man picked up the phone and called the police. He tried to explain what he had seen. When the police arrived and searched the upstairs apartment, they found the bodies of a woman and her two children lying in the bathtub. Their heads were gone. They had been decapitated with a saw. According to the autopsy, they had been dead for 3 days. Police found the husband of the murdered woman hiding in a closet. His hands were covered in blood and he was completely insane. He tried to convince the police that his wife and children were still alive. They also found an unfinished pizza on the kitchen table.